be part of? So whenever we hear the term team building, there's always some sighing, maybe some eye rolling, maybe some inner thoughts of not this again. And I think it's important to recognize those feelings and see why we connect them to team building. So some bad reps that team building get is whatever activity or thing that we are being asked to do may seem so cheesy, pointless, or awkward, and you just question yourself on how is this gonna help me become a better team member? And trust me, just like you, I've attended some team building workshops that kind of just made me tilt and scratch my head and just wonder, what are we doing here? But you gotta allow yourself just to be present in the moment and allow yourself to participate in those activities, even if you don't understand right away what their meaning is and what the purpose is. Uh, Another common complaint that people get about team building is that it can be unclear on how it's going to help the organization achieve its goals. And I believe that this can easily be resolved if the folks that are uh, working on creating those team building activities include actual team members into the planning stage. That way, that the common folk can connect to, okay, we're doing this to meet this goal. And lastly, people may seem team building as unproductive. Uh, some days you have so much work and you're being asked to step away from your work. So your first reaction may feel to just feel very unproductive and that you're wasting your time. But remember that if it's for the betterment of the team and you're being a team player, then you are not wasting your time at all. Now let me ask you all this simple question, and you can either unmute or you can just type it in the chat, whatever you feel comfortable with. But what do you not like about team building? Judgment-free zone, so feel free to share your thoughts. Could be one word, a couple of words.
I gotta say, like, my apprehension of team building sometimes is when you're first starting to meet people, and you're trying to find out what works for everyone. It's a little bit of a task, to figure out how everyone else understands things, how they're picking up things, and where they see the team going. You kind of gotta like make sure that everyone's going the same way or has the same goal in order to be on the same page with everything. So that's a little difficult sometimes. And I can admit that's probably one of my least favorite things to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. So me personally, where I find some conflict within team building that I struggle with is that if the host is going around and they're asking questions of just trying to get to know everyone, I just get anxious and I feel like my heart's in my throat and I feel like I'm gonna either stutter or someone's gonna say what I had in mind. So I just feel like it produces anxiety in me.
I can agree with that. I pretty
Yeah.
much had the same experience more than multiple times. And I feel like everyone has that same experience. Everyone's like, feeling nervous about talking because, you don't know the person very well. And you're like, oh, I hope I don't say anything that's like really, really stupid in my
Yeah.
opinion. So yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. I think, yeah. Um, Anyone else in the chat?
Hey, what was the question?
So what don't you like about team building?
You have certain people that just want to take charge and they don't acknowledge other people's opinions. Then you have the people who suffer with social anxiety,
Yes.
and me being an advocate, and I like to help assist them in speaking up, and they eventually wind up falling to the background because someone doesn't hear them. Um, and just not team building. It's really the people that don't have team in team building.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I can agree on that too. Like I feel like that's my thing too. When I first get into a group or a team, it's like you have someone who's very outspoken, which is kind of like what you need in some, parts of it, but you get those people who are way too outspoken and they don't care too much about making other people feel comfortable in the team.
Yeah, that's why we need to work on being team players, and we'll talk about that today. But thank you all for sharing. Um, so let's go into seeing the importance of team building. So we've talked about the bad reps. So we also need to also take the time to analyze the good reps. So team building allows us to freely communicate with each other, which can lead to better collaborations as team members. So once you're able to feel comfortable with your team members, you'll start to see some strong bonds being built and just more effective and productive work environments happening. Team building allows us to see how diverse we are and how the different skills that you bring in versus what your other teammates might bring in can help you succeed and meet goals and objectives. And if we are keeping our ideas to ourselves, there's a good chance that our team will not flourish. So sometimes allowing yourself to be vulnerable and creative in spaces with others can help you all just be just innovative. And if you're innovative, you might be solving problems faster. And who doesn't benefit from solving problems faster? And lastly, if we're part of a team, and they value the contributions that we're bringing in, this can help us keep ourselves motivated and productive, just building a sense of team spirit and accountability. So as you continue your journey through CCBC, your next college or your next job or the job that you're currently in, you may experience some different teams and on how they do things. And we just want to equip you with some knowledge of the most common teams that you may encounter, as well as some tips to help you succeed. So as you can see, we'll be talking about functional teams, cross-functional teams, self-managed teams, and virtual teams. So to get us started, functional teams is what you're most likely used to seeing. They're the ones that are made up of people with shared knowledge and skills. These are the folks that work within a specific department in an organization, and they're managed by either a supervisor or a manager who has expertise in that specific department that the team focuses on. So functional teams are actually really great when it comes to completing specific tasks in their department. That's their forte. The only downside to them is that sometimes they just kind of stay to themselves and they don't really collaborate and communicate with others. So that can kind of be a little harsh. Uh, so some examples to put in perspective for you all would be like if you worked for the marketing department or HR or accounting and so forth. To be successful in a functional team, you got to be able to talk to your teams in an honest way, and that does include your managers and your supervisors or your team leaders, even if that can be a little awkward at times. And this just helps you build trust and makes it easier to communicate with each other when it comes down to solving problems and simply collaborating with each other on a day-to-day basis. You also want to make sure that you're taking the time to understand your roles and responsibilities. Um, since you are a team member, you should know what is expected of you and how you are helping the organization meet their goals. Uh, you can also be a great team player by having an open mind and asking for feedback. Am I doing this correctly? Where can I improve? And then when people provide you feedback, just taking it with an open mind, a light heart, and trying to work on yourself. Another type of team that you may come across is cross-functional teams. So this is actually made up of different departments in whatever organization that you may work for. So they'll come together to work on projects that require the expertise of multiple departments, and they help encourage just different perspectives and problem-solving approaches. One of the biggest strengths of cross-functional teams is that they bring in a lot of diversity, since team members from different departments can bring in different skills, their knowledge, their perspective to the table. They're able to come up with creative and innovative ways to tackle problems. So some tips is that you should try to be acceptive of other viewpoints and their expertise. Like you may be known in your department as the Excel expert, but this other person that you're being partnered up with in the other department is also known as the Excel expert. So just, taking the time to not trying to be the alpha, just sharing the common grounds. You also want to have strong communication skills. So since team members span through the different departments, you may encounter that the way that you and your department communicate and work together is completely different on how this other department that you're being asked to work with does things. So your best bet is going to be to go in with an open mind and try to create a culture of just open and respectful communication, where everyone feels comfortable sharing their ideas and you're providing each other feedback. So at first, it may not be smooth sailings because you never know who you're going to be partnered with. But afterwards, if you're just being respectful, everyone appreciates respect, everything should kind of come together like a puzzle piece. And then again, being willing to collaborate with each other. So try to remember that you may have knowledge or expertise that others may not have, and you could be teaching someone something valuable. And one day, that favor could be returned right back to you. So if you can teach someone something, why not do it? And our third type of team that you may encounter are self-managed teams. And these teams actually operate without your traditional managers or supervisors. These teams are highly independent and they share leadership and responsibility as they work together. So sometimes you'll see self-managed teams like in small startup companies or just very like ma and pa shops, but they've actually been shown to be effective in any size organization. So some tips to succeed. One, uh, you gotta be able to hold yourself accountable for your own work and any responsibilities that are given to you. You got to remember that you won't have someone constantly behind you, checking up on you, asking you, hey, did you complete this? You're kind of expected to complete this and submit your final product. So just working on your either time management skills if you need to polish them up, or if you believe that your organizational skills can help you get yourself right on track and help you complete complete your work. This can make you a better accountable team member. Since you're not meeting with people on a daily basis or a weekly basis, depending on how the organization is set up, you have to prioritize starting up conversations with people. It's not about just waiting to see who's going to reach out first. If you have questions or concerns and you feel like your part could affect others, taking the initiative to just starting conversations can definitely help you out. Um, and then just being mindful that you are assigned responsibilities and you have your own roles. So asking yourself on a daily basis whether you have maybe a to-do list or if you journal or if you type or if you have like notes on your phone, just making sure like, okay, I completed this and I know that this will benefit my team. And the last team that we're going to talk about is virtual teams, which is something that we've been seeing more and more every day since folks do more remote work. And this is probably my favorite just because of the convenience of meeting with team members, even if we're not in the same place. Uh, so virtual teams are made up of people who work together, but they're in different physical locations, and they heavily rely on technology to communicate and collaborate with each other. So if you've ever taken a synchronous class or attended a Zoom or a team meeting like we are right now, you probably have some expertise with using such technologies for virtual teams. So some tips to succeed in virtual teams is to make sure to turn on your camera whenever you can. That way, you're building relationships and trust amongst teams members since you're able to be like, okay, I'm able to put this name to this face. It makes it a little more personal rather than just talking to a blank screen or sending emails or chats back and forth with each other. Most of the time, organizations will have online communication guidelines that they would like you to practice while working in a virtual environment. So just being respectful and mindful and taking the time to read those guidelines can help you seem like a great team player. And lastly, with virtual teams, you may encounter that all your coworkers may not be in the same time zone. So simply reminding people or having like your email set to out of office uh, allows you to be a little more considerate of others. And then if for some reason you missed a meeting a great amount of time, organizations do record them. So just being considerate and taking the time to going back and watching the meetings that were recorded for the folks that missed it can truly share that you care about your team and that you are a team player. So now that we've talked about the different types of teams that you may encounter, what characteristics do you all think an effective team should have?
I think an effective team should each member should be understanding.
Understand.
I think that all members should be willing to collaborate. And even if you don't have everyone on the same page, at least someone can delegate, to a specific person and say, hey, this person is in charge of seeing what we all want. I think like getting those things together, um, on the first day or when you first meet or in the first days is really important, really crucial, because then you have an understanding of what people want and then you have a representative for everyone. So I guess just going back to what you said, being open, being honest about what you want, what you see, your goals, and not being so closed off, I think really helps.
So yeah, I love that you brought up delegation, and so did Ashley, uh, because sometimes we do need a little charge of like, okay, if you do this, I'll do this. And that way everyone can just kind of work together instead of feeling like, oh, I have to do all of this by myself. When if you just started from the beginning and you could have simply shared the tasks. Someone said communication, of course. Out of the box thinking, yeah, innovative. Flexibility, open to new ideas, active listening. So, yeah, everyone likes to listen, understanding the goal and strengths of one another. These are all great, guys. Thank you. So, I'll share with you the ones I came up with. So effective teams, they usually have leaders who are able to inspire and empower others and delegate those tasks that we talked about. Communication comes up a lot because everyone's got to be able to communicate freely, honestly, transparently with each other to get along. It's important to take the time to build relationships and trust amongst each other. If you are holding others accountable, you should hold yourself as equally accountable. Just can't be like, well, they didn't do that. Well, did you try helping them too, you know? Um, and effective teams also take the time to collaborate with different team members. They have a shared common purpose or goal. They're embracing diversity, and when it comes down to it, if need be, they'll adapt and change together. So not only could you phase different types of teams as you go on throughout life, but you could also face different stages of team development. So I also want to provide you some information on that. So this guy named Bruce Tuckman came up with 4 stages of team development, which is there to help you understand the team development process, and it identifies what areas teams could be at and how they can improve. So regardless if you're joining a team that has been there for years and years, they can phase any of these stages because it depends on how management and how the team is working with each other. That lets you know what stage they're in. So we'll go ahead and break it down into each. So we have the first stage, which is the forming stage. And this is usually when teams are created and they start looking for guidance from a leader or upper management. So you'll see a lot of people experiencing anxiety or uncertainty since they're lacking that guidance. Then you'll move on to the storming stage where the teams have established some rules, but then there's some conflict and disagreement among team members about the rules that have been established. And people usually either are resisting the change or are adapting with the change. So you'll kind of be in a tipping scale. So it can be a little frustrating. The team members are still trying to get to know each other at this point. They're still trying to figure out the roles and responsibilities. So it's a lot of bringing in their own perspectives and trying to, you know, there's a lot of storms coming in. And then we have the norming stage. So you kind of start seeing a little less rain, but you're still trying to figure out uh, those rules and roles, members can start seeing some trust amongst each other. You'll start seeing better communication skills. So everything's starting to kind of get better. And then lastly, we have the performing stage. So this is where we have established rules, roles, and norms. Team members actually have a high level of trust and respect for each other. And then this is where everyone's just kind of working together effectively and they're able to meet those goals very productively and respectfully with each other. And if for some reason you find yourself either in the forming or storming stages, try not to freak out. And if your gut or your instincts are telling you, like, I need some guidance, I need to talk to someone, try to talk to your supervisor or your manager and try to see how you can help them kind of ease through these stages. Or if you're kind of shy and don't know what to do and don't feel like uh, going all the way up to management, you could talk to a coworker that may have a little more experience than you, and just having like a source of uh, kind of a friendship, just to talk it out and just know that you're not alone, can make you a team player as well. So it's okay to feel uncertainty when it comes to team development, but just remember to ride out the storm and eventually and hopefully everything just kind of falls into place. And um, yeah. So we've talked about the different types of teams and the stages of team development. But the last thing that we're going to tackle is if we're good team players. So I'm going to go ahead and read these questions, and I just want you to reflect upon them. Do I support my teammates and help them succeed? Do I contribute to the team's success? Am I respectful to others' opinions and ideas? Am I a good listener? And am I open to feedback from others? So I'll give you all just a few moments to think about this. So if you're feeling iffy about the responses you had while answering these questions, this can be a great opportunity for you to ask yourself what's keeping me from saying yes to all of these questions. Remember not to be so hard on yourself because we're not perfect, and some of these things will come easier than others, and some actually require hands-on experience for us to actually consider ourselves good team players. So just give yourself some time, and the experience will roll right along with it. And for our last activity of the day, we're going to do an interactive build your own perfect team member. And this team member could be what you want to become as a better team member, or what you hope to encounter one day. So let me share that screen with you all. Okay. So as you can see, there's questions like what values do they have? What are their work habits? What skills and or knowledge do they have? And you can just feel free to type in what you want in these boxes. Then I gave you some examples just in case you get stuck. So just feel free to add whatever you'd like. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and just read some of the things that everyone shared. So, some of the values that we would like to see in our perfect team members is honesty, of course. No one likes a liar. Understanding, of course. Honest, compassionate, hardworking. Compassion is key. Sometimes trying to put ourselves in others' shoes can truly help us just be a better team player, just to reason with others. Hardworking, of course. Good communication skills, yes. What are their habits? They're hardworking, they're selfless. Yeah. They're communicative, they help others, they're dedicated, they're able to adapt. And then what skills and or knowledge do they have? Someone said that they're proficient in a craft and communicate effectively. They know their other teammates, so they're taking the time to understand each other. They're understanding, skills to always learn, assertive but willing to listen. So I think a common theme for our perfect team member is someone who is a hard worker, they're understanding, and they have excellent communication skills. So I feel like it's not too out of this world. So I feel like it's definitely some things that we could all start putting into practice into our lives to be better team members for others and for ourselves. Go back to the other one. Okay. And so our wrap up for today is remember that being a team player takes time and effort, and being present for any given team building activity can help you better yourself, reduce stress, and work more productively either at work or at school. Uh, you may encounter one of the teams that we mentioned today or a completely different new one. Uh, or maybe you'll join a team and you'll see two or all of the stages of team development. But try not to panic and remember that just being open, communicative, understanding, honest, trusting, and respectful can help you navigate through any unforeseen situation. And that is all for me. Does anyone have any questions? No? Well, I appreciate you all coming by and being interactive with me today. Our next Leadership Lunch series is going to be Monday, November 6th at 1 p.m., and we're going to be talking decision making. So make sure to swing by, bring a friend, or tell a friend to bring a friend. And I really appreciate you all for coming today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything. It was really fun. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Bye, everyone.